Welcome back, guys. It's another episode of the Admin Group. Joining you, your host, Jay the Admin, aka Yes, I'll Change Your Password, aka the Outlook Expert, aka Restart Your Damn Computer. And today, guys, the topic I wanted to talk about is certifications. Certifications. You know, in IT, they're a powerful tool. You know, when you're on your job search, you may go to people for advice. They may say, "No, you should go to college. You should major in computer science. You should go for the master's program. You should do this. You should do that." There are a ton of different. You should information systems. Excuse me. There are a ton of different paths that anybody can take, and there are a ton of different certifications that you can take. There are a bunch of different certifications that will help you, and there are a ton that won't help you. I will be clear about that. So, first, I'd like to talk about the power of them. Now, certifications can absolutely get you a higher salary. They can absolutely get you a better job, a better job role. If you wanted to go from desktop support to network engineer, was which was a dream of mine, to go from the help desk to the network engineering team. Well, I worked for a smaller company, so I became the network engineer at that point. But yeah, there are a lot of different certifications that can get you to your goal, but you do have to know where you want to go first. Certifications cost money. They do take time to earn. They are very beneficial, but if you let's say you get a security plus, but that's not really where your heart lies. Or let's say you want to be in cybersecurity, but you just have an A plus. Well, that's not very relevant to what you're trying to do. So you look stupid in the interview. Your resume gets overlooked. If you ever go on Google Jobs, LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, these job descriptions will tell you what they're looking for, and you can start there. It's a lot like when you're studying for an exam. The objectives, what you need to know, where you need to be, is the only thing you need to focus on. You don't need to worry about ancillary things and things that people have said to you, because that can cloud your judgment, that can slow your growth down, and ultimately, we all just trying to get paid, man. I'm trying to get paid, and I want y'all to get paid. So let's get paid together. I'm gonna help y'all out, and this is what has helped me get ahead. And when I say get ahead, salary increase, better job roles, a lot more perks than I had before, and yeah, some of it was just the relationships I had with the people who are in that industry, the people who are in the companies that I've grown with. There were a lot of relationships there, but certifications played a major role, because instead of instead of me waiting for somebody to invest in me, and me even going the standard route of college, I feel, and I've been a part of hiring processes, I feel that if a person is not only self-motivated to learn something, but also be disciplined enough to invest their own money, and certifications are a good amount of money. It's not like these are a $50 test or a free test. Very rarely you get free tests, and when you get that free voucher, make sure you pass that exam, because that is a blessing from God that not everybody gets. There are certifications out there. One, for instance, the CISP, $750 just for the exam. Just for the exam. So if you were to get that exam voucher for free, you better make sure you pass that exam, because that is a lot of money to throw away. Like that's a big blessing to just squander. You could get at me. Shoot, that's one of the certifications that I'm looking at. But in terms of certifications, it is absolutely beneficial to anybody in the IT industry. I would say every industry. I can't really say every industry, but there are certifications for culinary. There are certifications for project managers. There are certifications for what else? What else? What other kind of certifications out there? I'm sure there's a certification for walking dogs, or just understanding dog behavior. So if you're, it, I guess this one isn't as specific to IT, but if you're trying to get ahead, or even if you're trying to help out, if you are in IT and you want to help somebody out, maybe look at what certifications are in their industry, and then just go on LinkedIn and search that certification for job postings. The HR person who works at a company, they're not going to be technical to where they're going to put must know OSPF, must know BGP, must know EVPN, must. That's not how it's going to work. They're going to say must understand networking, and then they're going to list all of the certifications that they are looking for or would help in the consideration of that role if you are a prospect. So from that, you can kind of reverse engineer what it is you need to learn to level yourself up. So absolutely, certifications, regardless of the industry, are a big help, but they have to be relevant to where you're trying to go. A culinary certification is not going to help me. That does not help me set up a switch. It does not help me better understand EVPN, or what is it? Is it MPBGP? No, it's not. But oh man, it's slipping my mind right now. But overlay, underlay, and how confusing that can get. Overlay and underlay for all my SDN guys and gals out there. Another thing I wanted to talk about is experience. Yes, you may have a certification. You may have all of the certifications. That does not mean you get paid $1 million a year. That does not mean you get paid $100,000 a year. That may not mean you even get paid $50,000 a year. Because book knowledge is very different from real world experience. When there's a network outage and the CEO is calling you, and it is 12 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, it's 12 o'clock, it's midnight, the CEO is calling you, hey, our website's down, hey, we got hacked, what's going on, I can't get to the website, can you tell me we need to fix this now? Not even can you fix it now. When you're in those situations, if you haven't dealt with that kind of pressure, if you haven't dealt with staff being frantic, I gotta turn in this report, I gotta recover this file I deleted on accident. If you've never been in those situations, when you are going to be just as panicked as that person. And in IT, we have to consider so much. We have to be very methodical in our troubleshooting and really understand how a program may work, understand how a website may work, where the connectors there, really understanding how to fix an issue. You have to be clear on what's going on there, and being there before, like my football coach used to say, act like you've been there before. You have to act like you've been there before, because if you act out of character or if you act on emotions, that can that can be costly, like if your CEO sees that you broke down crying and I don't mean to laugh at that, because there are very stressful times. I have had plenty of stressful times in IT, and how I deal with them is, I just kind of stand up, walk around, do a couple laps around the office, and then I sit back at my desk and I handle business. But if I were to show, my bosses or the people ahead of me, the people over me, even the people under me, if I show them that I'm emotional or I can't handle a certain situation, now all of a sudden they have less faith in me as a leader. They have less faith in my abilities, less faith in my knowledge, and that's less faith in me in that role. So that's not something you want to happen. But if you are, let's say, you're under the head guy and a website gets hacked, or a server's down from a DOS attack, if you're not at the top, you can observe, you can see what's going on. The pressure isn't on you as much. You can even ask questions, to that person ahead of you. I would say working in IT, doing something kind of like an apprenticeship, where you're working under someone who really knows the ins and outs, someone who has been there time and time again. They're a real expert and a real veteran in that field. You can learn a lot, not only on how to compose yourself, but also where to go first. There are a lot of issues that kind of have the same rhyme or reason. So, if you see something is happening, you go straight to, okay, let me check these logs. Let me go to this server. Let me check the utilization on this switch. Let me check our routers, our firewalls. Are they down? Are they off? That happens. UPSs break and they turn everything off. There's just nothing you can do there but replace it or manually turn it back on. But experience is very big when you're trying to grow. And even if that is just a volunteering role, if you're trying to get into the industry and you're starting with the A pluses, the network pluses, the security pluses, your vendor neutral certifications, just doing it on your own is a big help. I know, like on a lot of forums, even on Reddit, people will recommend that you purchase used equipment or really old equipment. You can get really old Cisco switches and Cisco routers from eBay for a tenth of the price. Again, this stuff does not cost a lot to make. So even though they may sell this switch for $3,000, once it's EOL, may only be worth $150, because that's the industry. They're making money on the licensing and the latest and greatest. So yeah, if you can get your own hands-on experience, whether that be with your own equipment, even just simulating. I did a lot of work in virtual machine. Well, when I say virtual machines, I mean Oracle VirtualBox, which is a free VM emulation software that you can load onto your computer. I don't know if they have it for Linux, but I know for a fact you can get it for Windows and Mac. It's a free program. You can create a virtual machine with any OS, with really any iOS image. If you can load it in a VirtualBox, you can spin it up and you can run it from there. And there are images for literally everything. You can get images for switches. You can get images for virtual switches and routers, firewalls as well. You can do a lot of testing on your own. You can build networks, break them. GNS3, when you're studying for the CCNA, that's another virtual networking tool that is recommended, and it gives you that hands-on experience if you're not in that role. Luckily for me, when I got my CCNA, I had already had or was having a lot of hands-on experience with networking. We were on a small team, and when you have to step up, you just have to step up, man. I never been the person who wanted to always go to my systems administrator and say, "Hey, this is down. Can you fix it?" Or "Can you? What do you do? What's going on here? What does this mean?" I never wanted to be that guy, because as I got closer to various other systems administrators, I learned, and remember this and write it down, they Google stuff probably double the amount that you will. Like actual hands-on desktop experience, they're probably doing double the amount of time Googling to fully understand something, because they're putting their name on it. They may have to uphold certain compliances, HIPAA, PCI. So, they have to know the ins and outs, and they will Google to figure out, will this work? They will Google or do support calls. One thing that I've learned as I've progressed in my career, you'll spend a lot of time with Microsoft support, a lot of time with VMware support, Cisco support, SonicWall, Dell SonicWall support, just to fully get the full functionality of your software or your hardware, because you don't know all the ins and outs. Again, I mean, there are only so many certifications that a person can reasonably obtain and still, make money and still go through their own career and go to work every day and enjoy their everyday life and their personal life. So I feel, oh man, where was I? Okay, experience. I feel you have to get that hands-on experience to fully leverage a certification. Just having a certification will not do it. If you have a CCNA and you never touch Cisco equipment, I have been there. I got my CCNA before I really got immersed in Cisco switching and iOS and even Nexus. And once I did, I was like, okay, these commands are a little different. The way they do things is very different. Licensing is very different. But it wasn't something that was impossible for me to learn. It was frustrating. It took some time. But once I fully embraced it, I realized, okay, I can do this. If my systems administrator is calling every other day, they're on a conference call, they have to do a screen share with VMware to get this virtual machine going, I can read white papers, I can call support to fully explain something to me. And let me tell you, support agents in IT are usually really good, especially Microsoft. I don't know what type of programs they have in India, but those guys and gals are very knowledgeable on Microsoft products. And you have to lean on those resources because they're free or they are included in the licensing that you're paying for already. So don't feel the need to be the expert on every aspect of your network. Yeah, you may need to be an expert in some fields and in some areas, just to make sure you can mitigate risk and issues. But knowing exactly how VoIP works when you also have to worry about security and networking and the efficiency of your routing, that's not something you want to burden yourself with, because that is something that you can offload. I'm getting jitter over here on this side of my network. Let's call Cisco support rather than, wasting this resource that's already paid for, and instead me Googling for hours, racking my head, stressing myself out, trying to understand what's going on there. So again, knowledge is power, but also you have to leverage your resources in IT. You have to understand that you don't need to know everything. You really don't. Okay, next. Got a little winded there. Um, which certs to get? Industry specific or vendor neutral? And well, not industry specific, but vendor specific. So when you're talking about vendor, we're saying Cisco, Aruba, Juniper, Palo Alto. Who else is out there? Fortinet, Dell. There's so many. VMware, the VCP. There's so many different certifications that you can get, but if you're first starting out and you're not working in the field that you want to get towards, like, okay, so for instance, if you're a computer science, you got a computer science degree, you ended up getting a job as a IT manager, and you're getting hands-on experience with switches and routers and virtual machines, and you really want to better understand, let's say, your VMware cluster. It would make a lot more sense to get a VMware certification versus going to CompTIA and getting a cloud computing certification. It'll teach you things about like rapid elasticity, um, follow the sun, and understanding that 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 concept in cloud computing. But it won't tell you exactly how to work your VMware cluster. So if you're in a situation like that, then yes, go vendor specific. But if you're just starting out and you don't know, it makes much more sense, and it is just a lot better to go with a CompTIA exam. CompTIA exams, you can honestly, the CompTIA exams that I have taken, A plus, Network plus, and Security plus, they teach you so many concepts, and these are concepts that are applicable to all of the different vendors, but how they may do it and how they may go about it is the biggest difference. And that's not very what's the best way to put it? It's not that big of a deal. Like me having a CCNA, or me even just having the Network Plus, understanding VLANs, understanding how routing works, understanding how routes are formatted. Most routes are formatted the same across all vendors. You're calling out what gateway a certain subnet is going to use. If this subnet is going to use this gateway or this port even, that doesn't change. You may have a different way of typing it out. You may do CIDR notation. You may type out the full subnet mask. You may do all zeros. You may do a certain port number, or certain port name. I know Cisco to Aruba, they do gigabit Ethernet versus just interface and stuff like that. It'll trip you up for 10 minutes till you Google, okay, how do I configure an interface on Cisco? And then it gives you the syntax and you're good. Or you do tab, it does the autocomplete and you're good. But ultimately, understanding the concepts is very important when you're just starting out, because you don't want to be caught up on a certain vendor. Working at an MSP, I have the luxury of working with Juniper and Cisco and Aruba all in the same day, which is a little crazy sometimes, but it is a luxury. I feel that me getting that exposure is only helping. But I've also worked with engineers who live and breathe Cisco. They got the CCENT a few years back. They got the CCNA, they got the CCMP, they got different CCMPs. They may be going for CCIE, so their main focus is Cisco, and they may not want to venture to a Juniper. They may not want to venture to just a Fortinet firewall, or even a lot of these companies that are doing things better. Because again, Cisco, they're the OG in the industry. They have been doing it. The biggest companies run their networks on Cisco, but there are a lot of companies that are running their network on Arista. There are a lot of big companies running their network on Palo Alto, on Juniper. If you ever look into Juniper, they're doing some great things in networking. Like when I was doing my studying for my Juniper certs, I realized, wow, this is a completely different approach to networking. It's now the networking equipment is also a computer. It is helping me. It's not just me telling it what to do from beginning to end, how I get to it, what passwords I use, what AAA server, what the this, the that, It's actually helping. It's making things easier. Like one thing that I dreaded when I got into IT was setting up a switch. There's so many parameters you have to think about. And yeah, after you've done it, you get into the swing of things and you know what you need minimally, management IP, SSH, auto-generated key for SSH. Man, there's so many different things. Of course, supports are enabled. Setting VLANs, there's so many different things that you could put there. And that was one of the things that I kind of dreaded, like, oh man, what all would I have to do if somebody asked me to set up a switch? But now you have, so for instance, I'm studying for Arista, and in their Cloud Vision platform, they have configlets. So there's a base configuration that goes on all of the switches that assigns the AAA server, that assigns a management IP, that assigns a host name, and it not only allows you to remote into it to do the basics, it makes sure that switch or whatever switch you receive in the future is going to work with your network with no problems. You'll log into it, you'll know how to get it, you'll see the name, and things are just a lot easier now. So again, when you're going through your certifications, going with something that is vendor neutral is very beneficial if you're trying to learn. But if you're already ahead and you want to get even further, going with something vendor specific is absolutely the move, because the more specialized you become in addition to your experience, that's real expertise. The experience along with the knowledge is expertise. Just having knowledge does not make you an expert, because there are so many issues that will arise. There's so many things that even a certification may not test you or quiz you on, so you really have to be in that industry to understand what could happen, where it could go, what could go wrong. So yeah, in the beginning, vendor neutral. Once you're trying to get ahead, vendor specific. And then also the process. When you're trying to go a certain route, you want to figure out what certifications you want, what certifications will help you. And I am saying certifications plural, because having more than one is a lot more impressive than just having one. If you just have one, chances are it will be entry level, and chances are it may not get you to where you want to be ultimately. So yeah, you definitely want to understand the path you want to take, the time you want to take, the type of money you want to spend, and when you want to be done, and what what is required of where you're trying to go. And then also study materials. Always go for the free stuff. Reddit is a wealth of knowledge of people sharing their experience, and they can absolutely help you. And I mean, even giving you a Dropbox link, a Google Drive link that has a free study guide in it that you can just download and use for your own, or even if you like YouTube, there are so many people on YouTube teaching networking. There are people on YouTube who will teach you how to subnet. If you're having issues with subnetting, there are people there that will break it down and explain to you exactly what you need to know so that it's not stressing you out. If you're ever taking the Network Plus or the CCNA, there's a good amount of subnetting on both of those. So getting that practice and becoming acclimated with it will definitely get you ahead. So hopefully this helped. Again, if you guys have any feedback, any questions, absolutely let me know. Shoot me a message. Hit me up on 365. Um, hit me up wherever, and just let me know how I can help better or if I can clarify. And yeah, see you next week. It's been a good one. Peace.